Okay, so we're setting up a new Adobe Illustrator document. So here's Adobe Illustrator. I just did File and New, and here are your options for a new document. So I'm gonna go ahead and click Letter. If you don't have anything here, you have preset document measurements. Make sure you go in here and that this says inches. I'm doing 8.5. I'm doing the portrait orientation for this demonstration. I want to work in CMYK, which is full color. Make sure my resolution is at 300 ppi and go ahead and click create. Okay, so here's my artboard. My tools are over here. I want to make on the left. I want to make sure I can see my layers on the right. And I am going to go to Window, Workspace, and I want to be in Essentials Classic, which I am. Okay, so I'm gonna go and bring in my line drawing. So I'm gonna do a file place. Okay, so I'm gonna do a file and place and just find the document on. Here it is. So I'm gonna bring in my inked line drawing here and place it. I just need to click on my artboard and I will have to change the orientation. So I'm gonna, without changing the proportion, I'm just gonna resize this in the corners because it's larger than my artboard. Okay, so I'm gonna hold down the shift key and just resize it in the corner to make sure it resizes proportionately. Can also zoom out. So if I hit command minus or control minus, I can zoom out just to see what I'm doing here. I'm gonna place it one more time. I think I distorted it. Do a file place. So if I zoom out, I'm gonna hold down the shift key and resize proportionately to make sure it doesn't distort. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'll put it on my artboard. And what I'm gonna do is just click on the background to deselect. And I have to click on the actual image to select. I'm gonna go a tiny bit smaller. And with it selected, I'm gonna go to Object, Image Trace, Make and Expand. Okay, and it will tell me that since my image is large, because we took it from a photo, that it'll take a while to trace. So I'm gonna click OK, and it's rendering. And what it did was just take all of my black lines and create a series of points and lines to redraw my image. So at this point, with this selected, which it's highlighted, so I know it's selected, I'm gonna go to Object, Ungroup. Okay, so now I have different parts here that I can click on of my illustration to go in and color. What I need to do first though is take the background out. So if I click on the background, so my negative space, I actually have the white of the page there. I want to pull that away and just delete it. I'm gonna take a step back. So I'm gonna hit Control Z and go back a minute to where I just image traced and everything was not ungrouped. Before you ungroup, if your page comes in sideways like mine, it would make sense to go ahead and rotate it. So I'm gonna go in and do object, transform, and I'm going to rotate. And you can click the preview to see what it's going to do. And I want to rotate, I guess, 90 degrees here. Okay. And so now I'm gonna, with it selected, go and do object ungroup. And then again, I want to take the white page off the background. So I'm gonna just click on the background and delete that. Now I can go in and literally click on each part of this and change the color. So there's some quick swatches if you look over here on the right that I can just like drop color in to show you what I'm talking about. But you want to use the colors that are in your color story, which if you go to the color picker here, it's going to show you in Adobe code. This is the same code that would be used in Photoshop. So if you have your codes that pop up in this window from Photoshop, you can literally type them in the color picker and the same color will come up. So I'm gonna just go in, and I don't really have a color story for this demo. So just choose some colors. So you have to select each part. I'm gonna choose a color. And let's say I wanted to select, I know her dress is going to be mostly this color. I'm going to hold down the shift key and select the sleeve, this part of the band, all the ribbons, the knot. So I'm just holding down the shift key and selecting all these parts. And then I can go and do the eyedropper tool here and click on the skirt, and it'll color all those parts. Oh, looks like I didn't select this one. So I can click on this one, do the eyedropper tool to make sure it's the same color, so I'm not guessing. This, I guess, would be skin here. So I'm going to select all of her parts. That would be skin, her hand, ankles, feet. And let's go in and choose a good skin color. That looks good. Okay, now she's in grayscale here. So what I'm gonna do with those selected is I'm gonna go over to the right. And somehow she got kicked into grayscale. I'm just gonna click CMYK and the color should pop up. There we go. Okay, so I'm also gonna go in and do her hair. Let's give her darkish brown hair. That's also in CMYK. So what I can do if that keeps happening is I'm gonna click and drag over my drawing to select everything. Go up here to that box and select CMYK. Okay. And that just happens sometimes when we vectorize things because it wants a high contrast image. So it just kicks it to grayscale. So if I zoom in, so I'm gonna click on the magnifying glass and I can click on the actual drawing. I can see I didn't color something here or here, or I can again hit Command minus. So with my regular selection, which is this first arrow, I'm gonna click on it. And also this piece, I'm holding down the shift key. I'm gonna choose the eyedropper tool and color it, but you can see how quickly this goes. So this is regular selection. And if I wanna go in and do the dogs, things, I'm gonna make them the same color. So I'm selecting all of those. Eyedropper tool and select the color from her dress. And let's go ahead and do the leash portion. Oh wait, these will not be part of that. And let's make that. Let's do pink. I like this kind of mulberry color. Okay, again, that's in grayscale, so I'm gonna kick it to CMYK. Okay, and then these are actually parts of her dress that the knot is just hidden. I think I forgot to draw it in there. So I'm gonna color this. And then for the dog, I'm actually gonna show you how to put a repeated pattern print in there. Let's give him sort of grayish nose, kicked it to grayscale again. And we could make that a metallic color. So just to kind of show you something cool, you can do a gradient on this. So if I click on gradient over here on the right, these are all the different types of gradient. So linear, radial, freeform. So I'm gonna zoom in real quick on that. If I select that piece, I can actually drag a color from the color picker up here and drop it here, and it'll give me what appears to be sort of like a gradient that I can adjust so that that kind of looks metal. Okay. So just a cool trick how we make things look not so flat in Illustrator. Let's see. So I'm gonna give her a shoe real quick. Shoe color. Purple. Yeah, I think I kind of like the darker wine color. Okay, and then let's go on to do her face, and then I'm gonna show you how to do a print on the dog. But you can see how easy, I think her hair is still in grayscale. Easy this is to color if your line drawing is correct. There we go. Okay, so if I want to go in here, I want our eyebrows to be black. Let's do a quick swatch here. Eyeshadow, I don't know. And then let's give her like a pinky lip. And I'm just sliding the color scale here. And that's also in grayscale, so we're gonna kick it back to same marker. Okay, so let's, and you can see how some of the detail gets lost. I used a pen with a bigger nib, but some of the detail does get lost. So I'm gonna go in here and actually make a print for our dog. So away from my artboard, I'm gonna just kind of go in here and make myself a little box. And this is your fill and this is your line weight. I don't want any fill, so what I'm gonna do is click on fill and do none. And then this right now has no line weight, but if I click on line, I can go up to stroke and just add it just so I can actually see it when I deselect it. Okay, so I can see it. So what I'm gonna do is go in here and kind of make a just random kind of blob shape using the paintbrush tool. Let's see if this works. And actually I do want to be in fill and no line weight. So I'm clicking on line weight and clicking none. So with the paintbrush, I'm gonna just kind of make and fill in some just random splotches. And let's see if we can create a Dalmatian print here. That'll look a little random. Hopefully these aren't too big. So what I'm gonna do, I don't need that square actually. I'm gonna just delete it. I'm gonna take regular selection and just click and drag a selection box over all these. I'm actually gonna scale it down a little bit because our dog is not that big. Like if we were to put this on it, kind of cover him up a lot. So if I go over here again to the right, I'll look and I see swatches. What I'm gonna do is click and drag this to my pattern swatch row here, and you'll see a green plus, which means you're adding to the swatches. and I'm going to release it. So I see a little thumbnail of what I just made there. Okay, so now I don't need this. I'm just going to move it out of the way. So I'm going to click on the actual outline of the dog with regular selection. And if I click on that swatch, it will fill with my repeated pattern. So right now I'm on line. So if I click on fill, have the dog selected, I can click on the swatch and it'll fill that section. Okay, so I can also do that here. And I have instant Dalmatian. I can do that here. And I can select, again, all of the parts. And so now you can see that since I filled it, there's no actual white in there. So what I'm gonna do is select his head and copy and paste it. So I'm gonna hit Control C and Control V. So I've copied his head and I'm gonna actually go in and fill it with white. And then put this here. Now it's in front. So with this selected with regular selection, I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to the back, and it'll just move it behind it. Okay, so now I'm going to actually have to do that for each piece here. So here, 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 and actually here. And I'm going to copy and paste those. And since I have a bunch of pieces, I can group it. So I'm going to do object group so they all move together. And I can eyedrop the white. Let's not do that. Let's just go in and get white because there we go. And then I'm going to do object arrange, send to back, use regular selection and move it and place it behind the dog. Okay, so now there's a white background. I can get rid of this down here because we don't need it. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can now kind of I'm going to select everything because now we have all those parts and just do object group. And then I can take the whole thing and kind of move it. Now you do see as you move the dog, you get a different part of the print, which I don't know, that could be cool or it could be frustrating. So I just want to make sure they're not bumping up against the edge of the page. And what you could do that could be kind of cool is use your print to add, I don't know, background or something cool in the back. So let's see. I could actually go in with the line tool. Let's change the line weight. Actually, let's do this. Let's make a rectangle and we'll fill it. So if I have a rectangle, I'm gonna put fill in and no line weight. Go to the shapes tool, which is here, and we'll make a rectangle. And I can go in and just click, drag. If I want a perfect square, I'd hold down the shift key, but I'm just gonna make a rectangle. And I'm gonna select it with regular selection, go over here and choose my print. Make sure that the fill is in the front. And choose my print. So I can send that to the back. So I'm gonna do object, arrange, send to the back behind them. Which the dog kind of gets lost in all the print. I could just adjust the opacity. So if I come over here to the right and click on transparency, I can make that transparent just by dragging the little slider. Okay, so then they still kind of stand out here. And that could be a cool way to just kind of showcase the repeated pattern if you make one, or just something cool. So there's not so much white space on the page. So then at this point, I would actually print this out if this were going on the mood board, or just save it as a PDF to submit for the document. So right here, I can see, let me ungroup her, object ungroup, because you always want to put a background on it to make sure you've cut everything out. If I ungroup, I can see that there's some white that I didn't get rid of here and here so that I can actually see the background. Okay, so that looks pretty good. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and save it. So saving would be doing a file, save as, and I'm gonna save on my computer just as an Illustrator document is your working document. So I'm gonna save as an Illustrator file. But usually in Adobe Illustrator, if you save a PDF and you open it, you'll still have all your layers intact. So you should be able to edit it. So saving it just as a PDF should be fine. So I just save on my computer, name it, and then I can, from the drop-down menu, save it as a PDF. Okay, and this is what I would submit for the assignment.